Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today is a good day because any day that I get to wear my mini ears is a good day, and I am finally talking Disney again. As a lot of you may already know, we are traveling to Disney at the end of January and I am really excited, and I thought I would kind of share with you guys today how I get the process started when I have the idea that I'm going to be taking a Disney trip, which I always have that in my head. I feel like I'm always planning a Disney trip no matter how far away it is. I just wanted to give you guys kind of a little bit of an idea of how I get started. You may have just decided that you're going to be taking a trip to Walt Disney World and you just don't know where to begin. And I am here today to share with you my process in booking a Disney trip. So the first thing that I think about when I decide that I'm going to Disney, which again, I always decide that I'm going to Disney, I always want to go. The first thing that I take into account is the time of year that I would like to go and the duration of my stay. And the way that I decide when I'm going to go basically is based off of the crowd tracker. There's a crowd tracker at touringplans.com. Some other blogs and things might do it as well. I'm sure they do, but Touring Plans has really been a great tool for me in planning my Disney trips ever since like the early 90s, not the early 90s, but the 90s when I really started going more frequently. So I find it super helpful and I think you will too. I'm not sponsored or anything. It's just the tool that I always use when I am beginning my trip planning. The first thing I do is I go to touringplans.com and I take a look at the crowd calendar, because for me, I do not like to travel when it's super crowded. That might not be a concern for some other people, but for me, that is my main concern. So I'll pick a week that is not too crowded. I try to keep it, they do it like out of 10, so 10 out of 10, Christmas week is the busiest week of the year, and then you'll have like a 5 or a 6 out of 10, and that's kind of where I like to plan. And in addition to that, I take a look at the weather, because they will also show you the anticipated upcoming weather, and that helps me decide as well. January can be tricky, and I am not guaranteed beautiful weather. It has been very cold in Florida before in January, and it has been hot. So I'm not sure how it's going to be the week that we are there, but I am hoping for the best. I've been there in January before and it was like in the 70s, so that was really nice, but who knows what's going to happen. Also, when you're deciding when to go, you might have to take your children's school into account, and I have the past several trips taken my kids out of school just to avoid those crowds, but some people do not have that option or simply just do not want to take their kids out of school, and I totally get that, and I do realize that especially as they get older, it is a little bit of a struggle getting back on track, so you really need to see how your kids are going to be with missing any time in school. But I do take my kids out of school to go to Disney World, and I also recommend staying at least 7 to 10 days if you can, especially if it's your first trip. So when you're deciding your length of stay, some people think they can go for 3 nights, 4 days, and it's their first trip and they're gonna do and see so much, and you will do and see a lot of things, but there's so much to see. And I always found that a 10-day trip is kind of the perfect number, because you can do 8 days in the parks and then you can have 2 days off, and I really like that. I like to go for a few days and then maybe have a resort day and then go for a few more days. It just kind of breaks up your trip. If you can have a couple of resort days or a day where you just kind of go resort hopping, maybe go to Disney Springs or go bowling or do mini golf or something like that, it's really wonderful if you can possibly go for that length of stay. I know a lot of people can't, and I haven't in a long time now. Our last trip I think was 6 nights, 7 days, and our upcoming trip is only going to be 5 nights. No, not even. Our upcoming trip is going to be 4 nights, 5 days. So it's going to be a really busy trip, but because I have gone many times before, I don't feel that added pressure to do and see everything, where if this is your first time going to Disney, you're going to want to do and see as much as possible. Something else that you might want to think about are any upcoming events. If you really want to go to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party, or if you want to go to Mickey's Very Merry Christmas party, or the Food and Wine Festival, the Flower and Garden Festival, Festival of the Arts, which is the one that I'll be there for again this year. I was there last year for that as well, and it was a lot of fun. So there's so many things and so many special events going on in Disney, and if those are things that you might be interested in checking out yourself, you might want to aim to go that time of year specifically to be able to experience one of those special events that they have going on, because they are amazing and definitely worth the trip. But also the crowds tend to be higher at those times as well. I think Festival of the Arts is not quite nearly as crowded as, say, going during the Food and Wine Festival, but you'll have to take a look at the crowd calendar, see what events that you hope to see, and kind of gauge it around that. In addition to that, you will notice that the weeks that Run Disney events are going on, if you're not going to be involved in Run Disney, you might want to keep away from those dates, because the crowds do tend to be a little bit higher at that time, and the traffic can be really bad at that time too. So the buses going to and from the Disney parks sometimes get stuck in traffic. That happened to me on my last trip, and it was a little bit frustrating. So you might want to try to avoid those times as well if that is something that concerns you. Okay, so now that you've decided how long you're going to stay and the time of year that you're going to go, you kind of have narrowed it down to the week that you want to be there, you need to start looking into the different Disney resorts. And I say Disney resorts because I really think that they can be very affordable and they are so worthwhile. Staying in the Disney bubble is a completely different experience than staying outside of Walt Disney World. I always highly recommend staying in the world if you can, because it really is a completely different vacation when you have all of the Disney transportation at your fingertips and you have the ability to book your fast passes 60 days in advance, because even at the 60-day mark, it can be very limited. So if you're staying off-site and you only have 30 days to book your park passes, there's really going to be limited availability. And I just love having the ability also to do early morning entry or staying later in the evening, where they have those extra hours just for their Disney guests. So there are so many reasons to stay in Walt Disney World. So that is what I would recommend for sure. And if you guys are new to my channel, I am a travel agent, so I could totally help you with that. If you have questions or concerns and you want to email me, you can go ahead and reach out, and I can always help you find something in your budget in regards to a Disney resort. But if you're not familiar with it at all, there's 3 levels. So you have your value resort, your moderate resort, and your deluxe resort. And I'm going to go into more details with everything that I talk about today in upcoming videos, but I just wanted to give you an overview of the process that I follow when I'm booking a trip for myself or for a client. So if you're going to be staying in a value resort, you're not going to have nearly as many options as far as dining. You're not going to likely have table service dining in your resort, which sometimes can be annoying if you're just tired and it's the end of the day and you just kind of want to be at your hotel and get a meal. You're probably going to be limited to counter service dining options. Also, the transportation isn't usually as good as it would be if you were staying at, say, a deluxe resort where you could be on the monorail line, or you could be, you know, just a boat ride away from the Magic Kingdom. The new Skyliner has really opened up such a great opportunity for people who do want to stay at value resorts, because Pop Century and Art of Animation are on that Skyliner ride, which will give you quick access to Hollywood Studios and Epcot through the Skyliner. And then you also have Caribbean Beach Resort on that same route, which is a moderate resort, and then the Riviera, which is the new Disney resort, which is a deluxe, and they're all on that Skyliner route. So that makes transportation really simple. Something else that you might want to think about is, if your family is more than 4 people, your options in regards to staying in a value resort will be limited. Value resorts typically hold 4 people to a room. There are exceptions, and you can find a family suite and things like that once in a while, but for the most part, you're going to find the rooms that accommodate a family of 5 are going to be in some of the moderate resorts, and in that case, it might be something like a trundle bed that comes out of the wall. So it's not going to be very spacious. And I did upgrade to moderate resorts from value resorts once we had our first couple of children, because we needed that extra space. But once they got into their teen years, it was a little bit more difficult squeezing into the moderate room with the bed that, you know, flips out from the wall that's kind of small and things like that. So that's when we started to really stay only at deluxe resorts, because they do typically accommodate more comfortably a family of 5, and that has just been the way that we choose to travel, because it can be very claustrophobic when you're away, especially if you're going to do like an 8 to 10 day trip. You might want that extra space. So that is what we do. Actually, now we're involved in DVC, so we can even have like a larger, more spacious room that has a kitchen and a laundry area and all of that. I'll leave a link above if you want to check out my first DVC experience, because that was a lot of fun as well. And once you pick out the resort that you're going to be staying at, you're going to need to figure out what kind of park passes you want to get for your family. And you can do a base pass where you're just going to one park a day, and you pick the amount of days that you want to go for, or you can do a hopper pass, in which case you can kind of hop from park to park. And that works out great if you have older children or if you're traveling with adults. In my experience, when my kids were little, and I mean like in strollers, I really didn't want to park hop because it was just so much dragging the strollers on and off and having to just deal with all of that extra travel time with little kids. So I think that if you have older children, and especially if you're staying at one of the deluxe resorts that either have easy access to the parks through the monorail, the Skyliner, a boat, whatever it is, it's nice to be able to allow other people to go to different parks. So for instance, if I'm at Epcot with my husband and my teens want to head over to Hollywood Studios to go on Tower of Terror, they can go over there and we can meet them there later. And that's just really, really a great option to have, and it allows them a little bit of freedom. It allows you a little bit of kind of down and alone time, and it's really nice just to be able to choose your dining anywhere that you would like and not worry about what park it's in, because then once you pick your park days, you pick your dining based around that, or vice versa. So you would book your dining and then your park days would kind of be dictated to you, because if you're eating at the Beast Castle on Tuesday you need to be in the Magic Kingdom. So that's kind of tricky, and you need to figure that out as well when you're putting together your itinerary, and I'll help you guys through that as well in some upcoming videos. Okay, so once you know the time of year you're going, the length of your stay, the resort that you're staying at, and the type of park passes that you would like to get, then you can decide if you want to do the Disney dining plan. And there are so many different opinions of the dining plan. I'll share with you my personal opinion, and I'll also share with you some numbers when I get back from my trip so we can do more of a direct comparison. But in my experience, when my kids were little and they were paying kid prices, which is 9 and under, on the Disney dining plan, it was so worth it, because kids are so inexpensive on the dining plan. And if you plan on doing character meals and buffets and, you know, all the fun things that they have going on in Disney, it is so well worth it. Once my kids were over the age of 9 and had to pay adult pricing as preteens who still ate chicken nuggets for dinner, it really did not make sense for my family at all, because you're paying top dollar and your kids are ordering things that really are not, and it just didn't make sense for my family at all. But if your kids will eat the filet or have lobster or eat like the most expensive thing on the adult menu at a young age, then it might be worth it to you. So it really just depends on your family. You also can do quick service dining. I don't typically recommend this because quick service, well, let me go back. If you do the typical table service meal, you get one sit-down restaurant You get 1 counter service where you're just kind of getting like fast food going up to the counter, and then you get 2 snacks a day. If you're doing counter service, you sacrifice that table service meal where you could be doing a character dining, a buffet, a sit-down table service meal. You're not going to get that. You're just going to get 2 counter service meals a day and 2 snacks. And in my experience, most people are still going to end up paying out of pocket for that table service meal because you're going to want to at least do 1 or 2 or more of the character dining experiences, or when you get there, you're exhausted and you just want to have a sit-down table service meal, and then you end up losing points because you don't manage to use all of your counter service points in the end. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Again, it depends on your family. Maybe you're totally fine with that, but I think most people do prefer to have at least 1 or 2 sit-down meals during their stay. So hopefully all of this information was helpful to you just in kind of getting started and knowing what maybe you should be researching now. There's so many blogs and YouTube videos out there that could help you decide what time of year you'd like to go, what resort you'd like to stay at. You can check out my Disney playlist. I have lots of character dining and dining experiences and some resort tours and things like that, so maybe that would be helpful to you as well. And I hope again to break this down into smaller little increments so that I can go over everything more detailed with you, but this is just an overall where my mind goes when I am booking a Disney trip. First is the time of year, second is the resort that I'm staying at, third is how many park passes I need, and then finally if I want to go ahead and do the Disney dining plan. So once you work through all that, you can, get yourself a notebook, start taking notes, start checking out different places that you maybe would like to stay, and then we can go through itineraries and day by day, what parks, what rides, what fast passes, all of those things. So I have a lot of fun stuff to share with you guys. I hope that you found this informative. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can be updated every time I share a new and fun Disney video. And I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.